All right. So going back, you earlier you had mentioned that race was such a big issue at that time, right?
Yeah.
Growing up in Cincinnati in the 70s, for those that aren't there, help paint the scene for us when you're walking the street during that time. Like, what are you seeing?
So the thing was, this was a big issue for kids older than us. So we're, let's say, 7 to 12, right? It was the teenagers that were in high school that had all the beef amongst themselves. So we moved to Forest Park because my father wanted to move to a neighborhood that wasn't like one-sided. And Forest Park was completely both ways. It's like 50-50. So remember, we're little kids. So we didn't give a fuck. Like we all played baseball, football, that's what we did. Like that was kind of the sports thing. There's nothing more important than the team. So you got along with each other. So by the time any of that could have fucking infiltrated us, you're like, nah, man, Todd is my homie. I've known this motherfucker since we were, fuck you. You know what I mean? No one could tell you any different. The team, the whole was more important than that asshole's bullshit that he was spouting. But the teenagers were into that shit. The older kid, like the high school kids, we would see them. So I lived on a cul-de-sac and we would play wiffle ball and baseball in the cul-de-sac. And the older kids would come out and play with us because, they're older. And when anything would happen, my father would intervene. Like one time there was his name, Michael Parks. There was a black dude that lived like 2 doors up. And then there's these assholes from fucking New York. Sorry if you see this. They're the Beppelers. That's what their last names. And Erica was the oldest. And they rode the same bus home. And then when they were getting off the bus, Michael had the gall to say, see you tomorrow, to Erica. She went and told her dad, who was this fucking New York fucking biker dude from Bensonhurst. Yeah, that sounds right. We ain't fuck with him. And the dad had seen him talking. And then we're all playing baseball an hour later. That motherfucker rode his Harley down and like pulled it up on Michael and like tried to hit him and called him out his name. And my father came off the fucking porch. Who the fuck you talking to? Well, this this blah, blah, blah said this to my daughter. He's like, what's your fucking point? He's like, well, you're not fighting a high school kid, but I'll tell you what, I'll beat your ass right now. My dad is the nicest dude in the world. But if he didn't play that shit, he didn't play that shit. He didn't play that shit. And so he backed that dude down like, don't come down to this in the street. Keep your stupid ass up there. You can have all your racist bullshit up there. Don't bring it around my kid and don't bring it around these kids. They're playing baseball. He said, see you tomorrow. And if that merits that reaction, then keep your ass up there. And my dad would all the time on anything. If you were fighting someone, like if 2 dudes were jumping you and we were driving by, he would stop the car and get out and jump right in the middle of it. I watched him do it plenty of times. It was mind-numbing. I'm like, man, you have got balls like this. Like, he didn't give a fuck. He was just not scared. If you were wrong, he was going to make sure you knew it.
You know what I love when I hear you talk about your dad is like so many instances that you can point to of him showing you what is it really like to be a real man.
I got tons of them, dude. This one just because we're all at Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and we're walking back from the boardwalk to whatever hotel or whatever, and we're walking by this old blue Ford truck, and the truck's rocking back and forth, and it's a dude beating the fuck out of a girl in the front seat. She's in the driver's seat. He is fucking pounding her. And I remember my dad looks around, and it's like all these motherfuckers standing there watching this. And he went up and opened the fucking door and pulled the dude out and beat the fucking brakes off him. And then asked if she was okay, and then told her go, and then closed the door, and she drove off, and then continued to fuck with that dude. Then the cops came and asked what the fuck was going on. He's like, well, and then the cops beat that dude. And then we walked, and I remember walking back, like, what the fuck just happened? He's like, you can't do that. I'm like, what? He's like, you can't beat on a woman. I'm like, I wouldn't. He's like, well, now you know what happens to people that do. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. I mean, he fucked him up bad. And, like I said, I'm serious. If you'd ever met him, you'd be like, he's the nicest dude in the world. Except when you crossed the line in the sand, he was all in.
Mm. So the interesting thing that in Cincinnati, right, was like the public school board mandated the end of segregation in schools in 1973.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're born 1971. So like you're coming up like right during
Yeah.
that time early, but like I think they said like what even in the late 70s they didn't meet the requirements that it was supposed to be, right?
Yeah. So I feel like it largely probably stayed the same. And there are strongholds. Actually, they're kind of all gone now, but there were certain neighborhoods that are in Cincinnati that weren't annexed into Cincinnati. So they had their own governments. So they didn't have to.
Mm.
Like free. Norwood is not annexed. St. Bernard is not annexed. So they, and I'm not even saying those are the neighborhoods that are, I'm just saying there are a bunch of them that could kind of do what they wanted. And so Forest Park was like the first, where I lived, was kind of like the first kind of like middle class, working class suburb where everyone could move. And so that's where everyone went. So I was lucky enough to be in the neighborhood where like, we're all just kids. The parents were, the parents were the ones that would have had the problem. But even even the older parents were like, you got the feeling that they were like, maybe this will work. Maybe they won't want to kill each other. Now, like I said, the teenagers were assholes, but all the little kids, we all got along, and the parents learned to get along. You know what I mean? Like my dad and the other dudes on the street would have block parties and block off the thing. And it was just tons of dudes barbecuing and music playing and us playing baseball in the street. And that was kind of the like, see, it's okay. No, we don't want raisins in the potato salad. No one does, Karen. You take that shit over there. But it generally worked out and everyone got along, except for like, that happened a lot. Put the raisins in the, sorry, that's ingrained in my head. I was like, what the fuck is that? It's raisins in the potato salad. Never mind, that's off topic, but it really happened. But like on that street I lived on, so my next door neighbors here were Jewish, and then these were the really good athletes here, the Sheds, and then this was an Indian family here, and this was complete white trash, and these were Greek, and this was a fucking cop, this was an athlete, these are the assholes from New York, black family, politician dude here, and then Spanish family here. And so I was just lucky enough to be on that street where like we all played together. We were kids, there was no beef.
Was there a lot of crime in your area?
Not then, not really. I mean, I remember the house getting broken into on Christmas one year, but that was just the asshole from around the corner. But yeah, no, I don't really remember there being that much crime. That shit was mostly cats fighting each other. You know what I mean? There wasn't, and then later on, that was like car stereos being stolen and radar detectors. And I mean, that was fucking me. That's what I was doing.
But not a lot of like drugs or anything like that.
Nah. There was like a fucking, I went to Forest Park High School and there was a giant drug bust, and it was for the worst drug of all time, weed. That was the big drug bust they had, was for weed. And even as a kid, you're like, I didn't mean weed. Like, yeah, there was like, so for Cincinnati in general, crack wars and shit like that, we got all that late. So the crack thing didn't happen till it was other cats are like, you guys are just now getting crack there? Yeah, we were like 10 years behind. With Mark Twain said that shit, like, if there's ever another war, I'm going to move to Cincinnati. They're 10 years behind everything. And we were 10 years behind on that shit too.
Wow. So like, cause like with the 70s, we're talking about, this is the Vietnam War era and everything. And there was a lot of H at the time, right?
Yeah. For
so
sure.
You guys didn't see that.
Yeah. I didn't see anything like that like where I would have known what it was until I was an adult.
Wow.
Like when at least, post 18, then you started seeing shit like that.